Hello viewers and welcome to Daily Politics. I am Hamza Idris. The welfare of police officers in Nigeria has long been a topic of concern and debate. The challenges they face range from inadequate training and equipment to poor working conditions and low salaries. Recognizing the need for reform, the Nigerian government introduced the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, ACJA, in 2015. The act aimed to improve the criminal justice system, enhance the rights of the accused, and ensure fair and efficient trials. However, the effective implementation of the ACJA remains a challenge. As President-elect Bola Tinubu prepares to assume office, there is a growing expectation for his administration to prioritize police welfare and further strengthen the implementation of ACJA. And on the program tonight, we'll be talking to Dr. Salahuddin Hashim. He is the Director of Programs at Clean Foundation. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're happy having you in the studio.
Thank you very much.
We'll go on a short break, and when we return, the conversation commences. Don't go away. Yes, Doctor, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
We deliberately chose this topic, and we want to narrow it to actually assault on the police. Is the topic of the town, and
Absolutely.
We have this feeling that amid the political wrangling, struggle for positions, inauguration, and all that, the people who are supposed to take care of us, they are actually under siege, and a case in hand is the alleged assault by Seun Kuti on a police officer in Lagos. What is your take on this?
Well, for me, I think it is rather an unfortunate incident. What we saw was a direct assault on a law enforcement agent, and that didn't in any way go down well with anybody who is particularly an advocate of a justice system that we have seen to be very fragile over the years, particularly coming from the back heels of police brutalization and the kind of citizens upheavals to be able to manage that situation. And of course, incidentally, Seun, who happens to be a personal friend.
Oh, Seun Kuti. You know him?
Oh, absolutely.
I've never met him.
Well, I mean, was also in the forefront of the police brutality campaign.
Yes,
and
the NSAS.
Absolutely, the NSAS. And to now see a figure as such now becoming quite, it is actually unbecoming of such incidents, and I think that is actually condemnable, irrespective of whatever the provocation was. It does not justify it. He's actually shown a thought leader in his own sphere. He's a model in a community of individuals who see him as somebody who can actually influence. So to now be seen or be caught in that web of civilian brutalization of a law enforcement agent is something that really should be condemned by all and sundry. And of course, for me again, is that unfortunately, the kind of work that our law enforcement agents do, like you mentioned in your intro, they are those who protect us.
Yes.
They do a lot of dangerous work. They don't sleep when every other person sleeps. They run marathon in terms of the timing. Some of them leave family and friends, go into deep fields to be able to protect Nigerians. But of course, what do they get in return? The states that should actually be there for them in terms of provisioning of welfare and making all the infrastructure for convenience available, seemingly is not readily available, because these guys, if you go into the detail of how they survive, I must tell you, it is actually the survival of the fittest, because a lot of them cater for as little as their uniform. They buy for themselves. A lot of them have to procure boots for themselves, because all of those things should be things that should be handed over to them on a periodic basis. Food has been a problem. You need to see the shelter where these people live. It's been a bit of a problem.
Why are they at the receiving end, especially in Nigeria? You've traveled widely.
Oh, yeah.
I have also traveled widely. I remember there was a time, I think it was in Germany, you know, from a city to another city, and some of us, the passengers, were already seated in the aircraft, and then they now, and we saw, of course, I noticed empty seats, you know, in the aircraft. It's actually a big Boeing.
But yeah.
Unknown to me, it was reserved for, you know, police, you know, there. And when they were to get into the aircraft, it was announced.
Absolutely. And
almost every other person in that aircraft stood, waiting for them to enter.
Fine.
And they entered, they sat before any other person. Why are we not having that here?
Environmental factors, unfortunately, and of course, maybe the absence of recognizing the kind of effort that these guys also put in. I led the advocacy for about 3 to 4 years ago.
Okay,
Yes, pushing for providing that public recognition for security agencies.
Like
and
the police,
EPIS has started it. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, even unfortunately, a lot of the time in this country we talk about human rights, but we don't speak to issue of human responsibility.
When you human right and human, they are two different things.
They are two different things. You know, there are citizens' responsibility. Okay, so you cannot be consistent about the issue of rights. Okay, the question of responsibility.
Their right.
Yes, but there's a burden of responsibility on citizens. For instance, all of us are filing on an ATM queue.
Yes.
Now we see a man in uniform approach the queue, for instance, and he stood on the queue. I mean, citizens' responsibility suggests that you give him that right of passage. Let him just first of all say, because he's actually on an emergency work, and because of the kind of work he does, he needs to actually get back to his beat. He probably needed to just use the machine, do some quick transaction, and go back to his beat. A life will be saved wherever he's going to be stationed, you know. So those kind of things, but unfortunately, because of the perception we have about law enforcement agencies and the experiences we have had over the years, the moment you encounter them, you have this first proxy to say, look, maybe this guy wants to intimidate and all of that. And I've seen a lot of situations where citizens have said, no, let him also go and join the queue. But now EPIS, to be very honest, is now being very proactive. They announce boarding and they call men in uniform first, the army, the police, that if you are a man in uniform and you are actually on top of it, please proceed for boarding first before they call women with children and operate. So that for me is something prioritized. So it's actually creating some kind of imagined model of thinking, changing the mindset of institutions to now know that we need to give them that place of recognition in the public space and in some compartment of what we do, so that at least despite the difficulty they face, because they're actually caught in a dilemma. Citizens see them and dislike them because of the experiences they had with others in the past. Okay, the states that should actually be their protector have now become an adversary to them also. So you abandon them with all of those welfare and issues that we have mentioned earlier. So they are caught in between. Okay, so unfortunately, that is the circumstances that security and law enforcement agents have found themselves. So, but there is always a way of dealing with it. And the way of dealing with this is trying to create a system and a mechanism that helps to modernize the thinking of both citizens and the state in terms of the management of security agencies, particularly the police, in this particular country. And of course, that was actually how the ACJA was actually giving birth to.
Okay, yeah, before we get deep into the ACJA, at what level did we miss the road? What am I trying to say? Whenever there is an issue involving the police, for instance, and the civilians, the general impression out there is that the police are the aggressors. We never give them a chance to say, look, these people, they are there for us. Why can't we listen to them? At what level did we actually miss the road?
Social construct. It is actually the perception. Well, maybe not a perception now. Maybe the reality of the fact that police was actually established for regime protection.
Yes.
That the police actually from pre-colonial time
Yes.
were actually designed to protect the colonial masters. Okay, so that thinking has actually now dovetailed into what we have in modern day, where the police and other institution has now been created to be perceived as being there to do the bidding of the master against the citizens. So that in itself was where that erroneous mindset actually came to be. And of course also because of previous experiences.
Yes.
And you know too well that we have talked severally about the activities of the IRT, the SARS, and all of those, and the kind of event and the expose that we have also seen, and the several revelations, and the kind of nefarious activities of not just only police officers, but security officers in general. We have talked about a security man, an army, for instance, who was given a lift, for instance, got midway, killed the owner of the car, and attempted to take the car just between them. So you realize that there has been a lot of ills in the society that has been perpetrated by these people. And again, it is as a result of the long-term military interregnum in this country. The attempt by the military to somewhat, invariably with every sort of circumspect, incapacitate the police as a way of either reducing the potential coup d'etat or not allowing any sort of facilitation of that particular process. So for a long time, the military has actually seen the police as some sort of adversary, exactly.
Adversary.
Okay, and
so
that's,
they impoverish. Is it
so
true?
they-
Because
they
I have had this severally, that during the military era, the police was actually impoverished in terms of provision of
Absolutely.
equipment, in terms of even where they live.
Oh, yeah.
They were mercilessly abandoned.
Oh yes, that was actually the case, and you know too well that a lot of students of defense and security can actually put all of those traces to suggest that it was a long era where the police in itself lost the vision that originally established it. Okay, because at that time, that was where the conversation around the erosion of internal security actually evaporated, because we now saw a very big defense architecture that is actually undermining internal security because, of course, at that time, we were not exposed to these kinds of situation. So we didn't see it coming. We didn't really find that threat that they were already living with us, but because we weren't speaking intelligence at that time, so that didn't happen. And that in itself has also affected the post-traumatic stress disorder that you find police officers exhibit when they come in contact with citizens.
Yes.
You know, it affects their psyche, their morale. For instance, a police officer leaves his house and he has woken up from a dilapidated house.
Yes.
And his child hasn't
House
had
leaking. No water for the family.
And
the restroom is not there.
Yes.
You see maybe 30 or 40 officers and their families using one facility.
In a very tight and unconducive environment. In fact, if you go through barracks, you will realize that that was the problem. You will see this consistently happening, and then the officer goes out in the morning, fully dressed, proxy of the state, fully armed, and then he comes in contact with a civilian. And the civilian will now come in a checkpoint and ask him, why are you stopping me?
Yes.
So the aggression.
Because the civilian in the first instance, he believes that he's going to be exploited.
Because exactly.
And then on the other side, the security operative, he felt insulted.
Yes.
So he transferred the original aggression
to the civilian. Because he will now see the civilian inside the AC, winding up, okay, living conveniently and comfortably, and he'll now be asking you, you slept well, you have eaten well, you are driving a very good car, and then of course, rather than showing me empathy, you know, the least you could show me is empathy.
Looking at me with disdain.
And you are looking at me with disdain. So obviously, those kind of issues happen, and that is where the gap of responsibility and rights comes in. But again, is also an issue of recruitment. The recruitment process also somewhat has become very faulty within the police. And that in itself, because of the return to democracy, a lot of our political elite has now seen that arena as a place to abandon people who somewhat hasn't shown any direction in life.
Oh my God.
Okay, you have somebody in your community who has been abandoned for everybody.
So let me settle him.
So let me just carry him and just go and dump and say, look, IG, can you please help me to appoint this person? Meanwhile,
whether the interest is there, whether the skills,
exactly,
whether the pedigree.
So the best hands no longer get into the police. Okay, the best hand, they push them into something else. So those that the family seem to have abandoned and the community see as a threat, then they say, okay, look, just find a job for him in the police, let him go there. So over time, because of the activity of politicizing our recruitment process, we have now been able to, unfortunately, recruited a number of hands who have now become threats to civilian authorities and citizens at large. And this for us has been an unfortunate situation. And finally, again, is actually the weakness of our institutions.
Okay.
The institutions of the state that should actually provide a conducive environment. I'm sure you recall at a time when the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, visited the college in Ikeja.
Yes.
I'm sure you must have seen that video.
The video, in fact, it kept trending, trending. Even international media, latch on that.
Oh yes, it was horrible. Becking an officer requires a number of investment, and that investment must also deal with emotions, emotional intelligence, the kind of investment you put. But look at that college. Look at the bed they slept. There was even no foam on it. There was just an iron bed.
Oh my God.
Okay, they had to share 20 cadets who share one head of fish. That for me was the height of inhuman treatment.
And these are the people that you want to protect.
Absolutely.
Okay, doctor, this question that is bothering me since maybe 2 or 3 days ago is, where are celebrities getting the effrontery to attack security operatives? Where are they getting the confidence? The show, we have the portable, not long ago, there was this woman, they said she was wife of MQ Abiola, a certain professor who actually manhandled. Of course, the case is in court, but I don't think it is wrong for us to cite it as an example.
Oh, yes. I mean, basically, I think I will begin by saying that substance abuse is one of the very quickest way where most of these celebrities, and you know too well that unfortunately for us, we must commend the NDLEA boss who is doing a whole lot in that direction. And I know in recent time, some of those comedians who also have been busted and they have gotten quite a lot of substances from their house. Substance abuse on the increase in this country. And our celebrities are not very good models, I must confess to you. A lot of them are bad influences on young people. And I can guarantee you that the way they go, if we don't find some control measures, and that is why the issue of content control, even on TVs and all that, must also be paid attention to. You see music videos these days, the only thing that you see are smokes and women and all of those things. Those are not moral values, those are not social values, but to some people it resonates with them. But to be very honest, if we must talk about nanotechnologies, if we must talk about children who should think, with fast intel, people who should have a very arithmetic and supersonic thinking, that we must actually reduce those levels of content and put them. The world has gone global. Okay, we have people who are doing robotics now. At the age of 6 in the UK, you already have a robotic class, for instance.
Wow.
You already have a laptop to yourself. You are actually wired from that age to start thinking creatively. And that is where inventions and innovations are coming in. You see, because the environment is conducive, most of their models are people who, but unfortunately for us in Africa, we learn the wrong things more. okay? And unfortunately, the way it permeates amongst young people now, and that is because of Mad Bodeli. I'll give you one instance.
Yeah.
And this is not because we want to call it. At a time in this country, young people have not turned themselves to Malian. They say they are Malians. They're Malians don't go to school.
That is the way to go.
Yes, the Malians don't go to school. Malians don't.
Without prejudice to the real Malians.
Without prejudice,
they have,
absolutely.
Their own niche.
Exactly. And
they
what
are
they don't
being
know.
appreciated.
What they don't know. The Mali guy graduated from one of the best universities in London.
Wow.
One of the best university. Okay? He came out one of the brightest. But he came to understand what the society truly wants. That the society buys into all of those nuances. And he decided to sell it. And
he cashed on that.
And he cashed in on it. And unfortunately, it is growing. People cashing out. And you find out that this has actually been the back end of what our models have become. And that is called the abuse of substance. Secondly, is that fame, if you don't manage it, and it intoxicates, and it allows you to think that you are on top of them, particularly for people who constantly are celebrated wherever they go. So they see it as an affront, that as a currency for them to be able to cash in and actually deploy any kind of attitude that they want. And I can tell you that these are so many others, factors.
Yes.
We see playing out consistently amongst our celebrities. So because of the fame they also enjoy and the esprit de corps they see among the society, so they feel that they could do anything. And unfortunately, again, it's because over the years, and this is not without any form of prejudice to the police, it's because the police itself has somewhat cheapened itself to provide support, cover, personal escorts to these guys. Okay, just because you have some
so-called celebrities and all that.
Okay,
they recruit them.
Yeah, I saw a video of a wedding recently of a comedian. A lot of them were in Benin just a few days ago for the wedding of one of their guys, and I saw one of the guys who is one of the popular, and he had 2 more posts. Okay, coming, and it was a video that I saw. I mean, if you have those kinds of privileges, okay, you feed them, you give them the allowances, you support those kind of things, then you begin to grow.
Meaning you can hire and fire.
Absolutely.
And you can sanction.
So it creates this kind of mentality to say, look, this is the way. And to be very honest, we have one of the finest police and policing system in the world.
Dr. Salah, we did a report here in Daily Trust a few months ago on the commercialization of the police, and they have a platform that from there any other person can go, you log in, and then you describe what you want. Okay, I want 10 policemen. They should come with 2 Hilux, they should have so arms and all that. Now they will assess it, they will charge you, and then they release them to you. Of course, we discussed this, but it is still really relevant to this our discussion. Can we say that some of this attitude of and this was approved by FEC. So it's not that the police IG or somebody is doing this. And the reason they gave then was that the privilege, the VIP privilege being given to these politicians and all that, it's being abused. And therefore, it's better you apply, you formalize, instead of you settling the DPO, who will give you
so make it official.
You give the people money, then he gives you these people to escort you to a village and all that. That they should make it formal. Is there anything formal? And has it in any way improves the image of the police, or it rather diminishes?
No, I think it diminishes it over time, because what it does is that you see familiarity to a very large extent
leads to contempt.
Brings contempt, and that is what we have actually noticed over time. And of course, the issue of commercialization has been one of the biggest discourse within the community of public safety consultants and of course practitioners, to say that there's a need to create a little bit of some myth around how to be able to assess the services of the police in that particular regard, because what it does is that one of the things over the years that we have also noticed is that people who get those kind of services and they are deployed, they use those guys also to perpetrate other things. For instance, you get to your village, you have maybe 5 officers attached to you with 1 Hilux, and you fail, you pay you food, and somebody was owing you since last year when you came home, and you say, look, this guy has been owing me, please, I want you to deal with him.
Oh my God.
So you realize that they are not, other than the purpose.
They are being used as instrument
Absolutely, of coercion. So these are the kinds of things that you really would see in public discourse. But unfortunately, I think it is also because of the failure of institutions. And since we have returned to this democratic era, we have not really seen a parliament that is actually very responsive and strong enough to provide the kind of oversight and the kind of direction that helps to strengthen the police. I must say that the executive have made attempt. They have what they call the presidential, the portal, okay, presidential reform and transformation organization that was set up. Okay. And the idea for that is to be able to set up some kind of innovations that helps drives the police, okay? And that roadmap and that institution has actually been able to provide some level of direction, strategic thinking, strategic plan, and what are the things that they should do. And I think for me mostly is that a number of things, maybe when we get into the other details, I'll be able to make sure later, but the fact is that there are certain things that the police needs. One is that as we are in this country, the issue of interrogation, which is also something that the Aja speaks to. The police doesn't really have any school that actually schooled it. The police has to go to the military to actually learn interrogation. And the question is,
I don't understand. We have quite a number of
the military don't do interrogation.
Police colleges and
interrogation.
Police academy and all.
Oh yeah, interrogation is actually supposed to be a special school. Because for you to be, you don't mix it with too many. You can do it in passing as a gloss, but the module for interrogation is actually huge. And that is why when you...
So are you saying that some of the contempt against the police is self-induced, maybe because of the manner, the way they do their things, and that is how the society is also treating them?
You know, the issue is that when you meet a man that stammers, okay, if you provoke him too much and he doesn't know how to, he just becomes very aggressive.
Yes.
You know, and that is why when you don't know the right question to ask, when you hit somebody or you meet somebody and you have taken the person into custody, how you're able to get the truth out of it, your investigation process, okay, is very fundamental. What are the lines of questions that you must actually ask? And the moment you don't have those lines properly, you start beating the person. And you have actually violated what the existing extant law actually says. But we use slap to ask for a question here. But meanwhile, there are people who are actually trained to extract information. And that is exactly what we are talking about.
All right.
You must be able to find a way to institutionalize the issue of interrogation. It is very important. Secondly, is intelligence. We had one school of intelligence that also requires that the new administration, and I'm happy in your intro, it is like an agenda setting for the new administration.
Yeah, we have so. Yeah.
School of intelligence is something that the police and the police authority and the new administration must also pay attention to. The police requires it. You cannot have an organization that is in charge of internal security, but does not have a robust intelligence services. That, for me, is one of the key gaps that is also within the system.
All right, thank you very much for actually talking elaborately on assault on the police, including the factors.
Absolutely.
We'll go on a short break, and when we return, we will make a big dive into the ACJA 2015. Viewers, remain with us. We will be back shortly.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. If you are just joining, you are watching Daily Politics on Trust TV. Do well to follow us across our social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and watch us live on YouTube. We still have in the studio Dr. Salahuddin Hashim, and we are discussing ACJA in this segment after discussing, of course, assault on the police. And it also has to do with a lot of the things the police do. Now, what is your take on the spirit behind the ACJA 2015?
One of the most beautiful and delicious piece of legislation since we have returned to democracy.
You mean since 1999?
Oh yes, one of the most beautiful piece of legislation because the ACJA has about 29 unique provisions, and some of those provisions were meant to further strengthen the effectiveness and the efficiency of our criminal justice system. And of course, to provide those kind of value chain that allows everybody within the pyramid to understand what they should do part time, what are the responsibilities, what are the burdens of proof that you must actually bring to the table, the respect of rights, because the right-based actually framework, and the kind of what you should not do as a law enforcement agent. And of course, one of the very important parts is also the attempt to decongest our correctional facilities, also providing magistrates with an opportunity to consistently visit detention centers, review cases, review suspects, review inmates, and find a way to further decongest. Because those are some of the things that we have found out, because our correctional facilities most times have now become more of a training ground.
For killing ground.
As a training ground. Training ground for more criminals. So rather than correcting people, so people get into those corrections and become more hardened.
So ACJA made attempt to
address all of that. Very beautiful provision, actually.
I want to have some specifics here. They said on unlawful arrests, they cited section 10, subsection 1 of the CPA. The police, before, they could arrest anyone who has no ostensible means of sustenance and who cannot give a satisfactory account of himself. That was before. But now ACJA said, no, you can't just arrest someone arbitrarily. You need warrant.
Absolutely.
Is this working now?
Unfortunately, it is not. And the idea behind it also that some stakeholders have argued is that if you have somebody on a wanted list and you encounter the person, for instance, maybe the person was wanted in Lagos and the person ran to Abuja or Warri, and you encounter the person, are you going to, first of all, need to rush to go and secure and order? So those are some of the operational challenges that some of these guys have also. But in terms of a typical arrest, those are the things that they should expect. And of course, in your intro, very beautifully, you also started by saying the issue of implementation. And that for us has always been an issue, even though consistently we have always engaged with the Nigerian police to let them understand the compliance with this particular provision. Because the ACJA made it very clear that if you are going to arrest, for instance, you must be able to provide me with a warrant, okay? 2, if you are going to search, you should be able to also allow me to search you first, and which you must also come with the search warrant. And that it says that, look, even if you arrest me and you are going to interrogate me, I must be accompanied by a family member, okay, or a lawyer.
So that while taking evidence, someone will serve as witness.
Absolutely, so that at least I have
because
somebody.
Because there is this allegation that suspects will write
under duress
one statement, and when they are taken to court,
it changes.
You see completely new,
different. Absolutely.
And this brings us to the issue of torture and interrogation. Earlier in the first segment of this program, you made mention that the police require special training on interrogation.
Absolutely.
Now, you said institution. Is it that this institution should be domiciled within the police academy or police training colleges, or they should be posted to maybe specialized schools where they should learn how to interrogate people, because there are many ways to
yes.
extract information from suspects.
Oh yes, there are
really,
special ways.
Infringing on their fundamental human rights.
Absolutely, and that for me is the reason why that is important. That there is this special school, even though you can learn it broadly from the level of the cadet and as you go on, well, there should be a special school where people who graduate should be posted into different commands. And that is why the issue of interrogation room, the ACJA made it very clear that you must have an interrogation room. And that when you have an interrogation room, you must also have a recorder that records the proceeding of the interrogation.
Not just the voice, but also maybe video.
Yeah, maybe a video. So the reason why that is also there is because to avoid the officer from also applying torture or coercion in the process. Okay, so that because you are going to be culpable if you are caught on tape. But unfortunately, we don't even have an interrogation room also, which for me is one of the issues that we need to have. What we usually have is the conventional place where they probably keep the suspect on the floor or keep him on the bench. But there should be a specialized interrogation room where you have a video, you have a recorder, then of course the process is actually going very smoothly. And then of course, even from the outside, somebody can be watching. Maybe a family member can be watching just to be able to make sure that he has a witness that also has, but that is also not happening. And of course, sometimes the police would actually adduce this to the issue of funding, but private civil society organizations, you know,
like
have actually provided in some places, Lupeju, in some police station, very beautiful interrogation rooms, built and of course equipped with all the necessary infrastructure, hoping that they will actually be maintained, and then of course they will be sustained also. But of course, the number of politicians we have across the country is actually very huge.
But doctor, there is this snack that you have hardened criminals.
Yeah.
That extracting information from them is just not possible because you know they are hardened. And now, is it allowed to actually use coercion to extract this information, or this brings the issue of maybe having lie detector? So
no, you know, the issue is that if you are
technology,
if you are an expert in interrogation, you will know that you can't conclude the interrogation on the spot or in a day.
Okay.
Because already, if you are very key and you are an expert, there are patterns. Okay, there are patterns. I can take some part of the statement today. Tomorrow, by the time I come, my line of questioning will make you either contradict what you told me yesterday. Okay, and over time you realize that when you notice that you have contradicted yourself over a period of time, those who are experts in psychological engagement now understand that, look, these are the ways to go. I mean, if you go to the FBI, CIA, and some of those intelligence agencies, a number of them are specialists when it comes to extraction of
criminologists,
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So there's a need for expertise. So a lot of the time we have our police officers go into reading law and all of that. But I think we should have people who go into criminology more, to understand some of the ingredients.
And psychologists, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Who can read minds.
Because with your eye contact, I'm able to tell if you are lying or not.
But don't you think, of course, Nigeria, we are said to have some of the best laws in the world, but implementing them is our problem.
Absolutely.
But don't you think that these law enforcement agents are also constrained? Because they said you should not keep a suspect for how many hours?
Yeah, more than 24 hours.
To take him to court. And if you are unable to complete extracting information and then you take him to court, the likelihood is that, especially minor offenses, the judge will release them because they're poor prosecution. The police lack capacity for diligent prosecution.
Exactly, and that's because they also either fail or neglect some of the proceedings. You can approach the court and request the court for additional time to be able to get this thing.
I saw that of show.
Exactly.
They ask
for more. So for those they really want to engage, they know how to do it. But unfortunately also, and this is not without any formal, it's because you know how it works here, you know, and how people always want to get out of trouble. And when you want to get out of trouble, you always know the kind of things that you should do. So those are the kind of practices that has actually made those kind of things to make it look like. But when the police want to do their policing function, I tell you, they do it diligently and they are very meticulous with it. But unfortunately, we have a society where, like we established in the first session, police are badly treated by both arms, And of course, the man now waits for any opportunity that offers him hope for the day. And then, of course, opportunity presents itself.
Yeah.
And the question would now be, what does he do with it? Would he want to be patriotic in terms of how he diligently prosecutes the process? Or would he now want to say, look, I just left a problem at home, and this is an opportunity for me to solve that. Since I'm now an abandoned species, maybe I should actually take care of myself. So those are the kind of things. And when you have people who are also boxed because of the level of setback they have also experienced, both in career, both in terms of revenue, both in enumeration, both in promotion, both in posting. The politicization and the godfatherism sometimes also put some of them under frustration. And they just feel, okay, I have a cosmate. We came in together, but today he's
favoritism and all that.
So you realize that the guy just feel, okay, the system is actually unfair. So if this system, so those are the kind of feelings that we have.
Okay, maybe this issue of plea bargain, what will you say on it? Because it is also part of the
plea bargaining is actually an interesting and emerging concept, which has also been tested globally. Because in the global community, it has also been seen as something that allows you to come into terms. Okay, this has happened. Okay, I take full ownership. It does not mean that you are going to escape the wrath of the law. But of course, you can now say, okay, you can give back X, Y, Z to the state as part of forfeiture, because it has been, and mostly in corrupt cases, where you have people who have actually occupied public offices, or for those who have actually made fraudulent acquisition of certain assets. So those kind of things are global templates that has actually happened. But the question also is usually, and we have seen the case in recent time, when those forfeitures happen, what happens to them eventually?
They are relooted again.
That is where the problem really lies. So it is very important that when we have some of these templates, we also have a commission. And I'm happy recently we have this Proceeds of Crime Commission that is also coming up on stream, where we are going to be having it's monitoring all of the entire value chain of assets that comes in from criminals, and of course those who have actually stolen our commonwealth. But yes, whether they are going to eventually end up as our commonwealth is an issue. But I mean, the concept of plea bargaining is emerging, and is a way of providing some level of balancing to those who are suspects and to the state, and of course making sure that at the end of the day the society benefits.
And we also have this suspended sentence and community service. You earlier mentioned it lightly.
Oh yes.
That magistrates and all that, they should be visiting correctional facilities.
Oh yes. The idea is to decongest. So because there are some crimes that necessarily doesn't need you to keep people in maximum
to be confined in a correctional facility.
So you can actually put people into community services, spend some few days or some weeks to do that, and of course at the end of the day, so it gives them that sense of responsibility, and of course the idea is that it allows people to be able to now come to their right thinking, to now understand that what they have done isn't right. For instance, I mean, this is actually a very full castration now. The guy, Hush Puppy, I understand that he's one of the most well-behaved inmates in the prison. That he washes the toilet even better than any other person.
Hush Puppy?
Yes,
oh my God.
That he washes the toilet better than any other person. You know, unfortunately also, our senator...
Is he not really setting trap for them?
So you see that he's coming back to his senses. I mean, he realizes...
But I mean, don't you think that maybe he's setting trap for them to say, okay, he's well behaved, and then maybe they suspend it and say, okay, you can go, and then he gets back to this.
You know, the good thing is that in those crimes, they are not casual. The processes and procedures they apply, okay, you can't cheat the system. Okay, no matter how they are so efficient. There are triggers that allows people to understand when you are just trying to undermine the system, or you are trying to.
They will detect you.
It doesn't take too much time.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. In no time, our senator, who also has been has also become a teacher. Okay, who is also teaching people English in prison.
Who is that?
The Senator Koramadu.
Wow.
You know, so
he's teaching now.
He's teaching.
This is a new discovery. This is very interesting.
So these are some of the things that we find also happening.
Oh my God! I wish we can continue with the conversation, but I want just a word or two on what President-elect Tinubu should learn from this and how to make it better, the ACJ?
Yeah, I think...
in 1 minute, please.
In 1 minute, I think most importantly is that the compliance and the implementation.
Because the provisions are there.
And the provisions are there.
Fantastic laws.
Fantastic
So
law.
let's comply
Let's comply with it. And that's the most important.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salahuddin Hashim, for your well-informed perspective on
Thank you
this
very much for having
very
me.
important topic. And that's a wrap on today's program. Viewers, thanks for watching and do join us again. I'm Hamza Idris.